So why do I call this easy weight loss? Well, I mentioned in the first video of this series that if someone were to keep their meals to about 400 calories at each meal, or 450 or 500 depending upon individual needs, and if all the snacks for the day were added up and the snack calories all together did not go over 400 calories, or 450 or 500 depending upon individual needs, then it's highly likely that that person would reach their weight loss goals. Hi everyone, I'm Roberta. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, specifically a clinical dietitian, and this is something I eat for a meal or as my one big snack of the day. First, I turn on the scale and make sure it's in grams. Then I hit the tare button, or in other words, the return to zero button. Then I grab the Oat Bran, which has more fiber than oatmeal and more fiber than steel-cut oats. I'm going to use one serving, which is a third cup, and that weighs 40 grams. In case you want to know the nutrition information, there it is. And notice under total carbs, we see dietary fiber, 7 grams. You can cook this on the stovetop, in the microwave, in a slow cooker, but I'm going to do it in a different way. I'm going to use boiling water from the kettle. Place 40 grams of Oat Bran in the bowl. I use Oat Bran because Oat Bran has more beta-glucan than oatmeal, and beta-glucan is a type of soluble fiber that helps your body make more GLP-1. And GLP-1 is a hormone that helps us regulate blood sugar and reduce appetite. Now I'm going to change the scale to read ounces and return the scale to 0 because I want to add 5 to 6 ounces of boiling water. This is how I make my Oat Bran, and I call it the lazy way so that I don't have to dirty a pan on the stove. And since I don't own a microwave, I can't use that option. But here's the key to this working. As the water is boiling in the kettle, I immediately remove it from its base and pour the water into my bowl. Once I had used water that had boiled and sat there for about 5 minutes before pouring it into the bowl, and the Oat Bran just didn't absorb the water very well. So now I stir it for maybe 30 seconds, cover it in order to keep the steam inside, and continue to let it sit for about 5 to 7 minutes while I get ready for work. Now it's nice and thick, and if I didn't want it this thick, then I could always add some more water or some almond milk. Now it's time to add 1 tablespoon of cocoa, and I'm amazed that one serving has 2 grams of fiber. I use it for its antioxidant properties, to reduce the aging of cells, and to improve heart health. But I don't use more than 2 tablespoons in a day, because cocoa and all chocolate contain heavy metals like lead and cadmium, and the European Food Safety Authority also says no more than 1 to 2 tablespoons of cocoa per day. Supposedly 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder weighs 5 grams. Let's see. 1 level tablespoon, that is. Yay! Yeah, this is pretty thick. I used 5 ounces of water. On days that I don't want it this thick, I'll use 6 ounces of water, or I could just add, a splash of almond milk. Now I'm going to use 1/2 of a banana, which is equivalent to 1 portion of fruit. And what do I do with the other half of the banana? I put it in the refrigerator to either eat later, or I'm going to use it tomorrow. I was able to break it like that because I just bought it at the grocery store and it's a little underripe for my liking. And we cut and we smush and we smush and we cut. When it's more ripe, obviously it smushes a lot easier. Other than the fruit, I don't add any sweetener, but if someone was to add some sweetener, they would just need to make sure that they include the additional calories. And the final ingredient is peanuts. You don't have to use peanuts, but in this example, I'm using 1 serving, 1 ounce, which weighs 28 grams. You see, it's 170 calories. Now, if you want to use some other kind of nut, whether it's pecans, walnuts, or even peanut butter, just make sure you don't go over the calorie count of that 170 calories in order to keep the whole meal to the total of 400 calories. The rule of thumb is that 1 ounce of nuts is equivalent to 1/4 cup. So let's measure a 1/4 cup and see if that turns out to be 28 grams. Always remember that it's a level 1/4 cup, not a heaping. Does that look like, oh, I just lost a peanut into the bowl, but that looks like it's level. Let's see if it weighs 28 grams. Oh, just a bit over. Should I take some out? Is that 28? You know what? I'm the only one eating this. Forget it. I'm just going to put the nuts back in there. I mean, if you want to keep it 28 grams, but that's close enough for me. So what I have in the bowl has a protein content of only 14 grams. 14 grams of protein total from the peanuts and the oat bran. So I'm going to increase the protein by adding collagen, and the serving size says 2 scoops gives 70 calories, but you know what? I'm not going to use 2 scoops. I'm just adding a little bit. I'm only adding about 6 grams of collagen because all in all, this is going to add up to 20 grams of protein. I can put the collagen in the bowl, or you know what? I think I'm going to put the collagen in my green tea. Now, the last thing I want to do is just measure out 5 to 6 grams of collagen because I just want to add about 6 more grams of protein to my meal in order to make it a total of 20 grams of protein. On another morning, if I wanted to have more protein in the meal, then I could just add more collagen and add the additional calories. And there you have it. This whole meal is 400 calories. And here's the nutrition breakdown. At a different video, I'll talk about each of the individual nutrients and what the goal is for each one. Oh, and one last thing I wanted to share. I buy my oat bran from VitaCost because it's the least expensive I've been able to find. For a 40-ounce bag, it's under $8, and oftentimes I can find a coupon code that might give me 20% off. So this is the least expensive I found. Until next time, I hope everyone takes good care of themselves. Bye!